something very important. Preparing those grant applications. For those of you still active in academia, very important.
Okay, thank you very much. So, who here is in academia and has prepared grant applications? Okay, a lot of you. But I know from speaking to some of you, we have some people here who are not in academia, maybe not really familiar with how the system works, or maybe you're from a country that does things differently from how Canada does it. And I've only been here for a couple of years, so I'm sort of getting to grips with the Canadian funding system myself. I'm going to be talking a bit about, one particular grant application for one particular kind of program. Okay, so just a quick overview about research funding in Canada. It's really dominated by the big three. They're called the tri-agencies, and that is the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council, which funds science, technology, engineering type stuff. We have the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, which funds all the social science and humanities stuff. And then we have the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, which is all about health and medicine. And like I said, these are basically the three biggest. They're federal agencies. They're the most prestigious. If you're a university researcher, then you're sort of expected to get one of these a grant from one of these agencies if you want any hope of promotion or tenure or whatever. They've been around for a long time, probably about as long as I've been alive. And so, but like I said, I've only been working here for a couple of years, so I don't have too much experience with it. People have written about the history of these funding agencies. Apparently, back when they first began in the late 70s and early 80s, there was a sort of golden age where there was more funding available than there were applicants. And so basically, if you submitted an application for those first few years, it was judged on its merits in isolation and not with respect to any other application that might be received. So the funding decisions were always binary. Either you got the funding or you didn't. I guess a lot of people liked it that way. But starting in 1982, the number of applicants began outstripping the amount of available funding. So they had to move to a competitive model. And it's been like that ever since. So now all these proposals are judged based on merit, and merit is basically judged by comparing you to all the other proposals, and your proposals have basically ballooned into these very lengthy, complicated monstrosities. So, like I said, a lot has been written about it, in blogs, but also in academia. People actually study research funding as a topic of research. Sort of, I don't know how they get funding for that, but anyway. So here's a quote from one study from Michelle McGinn, who's actually in this study it's sort of a self-reflection type study. It's a co-authored paper where they talk about the experiences in applying for funding. So they write, the process of applying for funding is too much like an endurance test or a guessing game. It requires considerable time, commitment, teamwork, planning, and sacrifice undertaken with the knowledge that the result may be nothing but frustration. Probably some of you can sympathize. I imagine that this is not unique to Canadian federal funding. Okay, so I'm going to be talking in particular about Insight Grants. This is the flagship program from SSHRC, as you recall, which funds all the social sciences and humanities research. It's the flagship program. It's the most prestigious SSHRC grant that you can get. You get the most money for it, provided you're successful. So applicants tend to be not necessarily individuals, though nothing stops you from applying as an individual. I think it's more common that the applicants would be small teams of researchers. All applications nowadays are submitted, they have to be submitted through a web-based portal, okay? They did away with paper applications already in the 90s. They moved to some sort of MS-DOS-based system, and now it's all on the web, okay? So what does this application form involve? Well, it involves dozens and dozens of short answer form fields. There's in fact lots of, well, probably hundreds or thousands of short answer form fields you need to type your CV into, which is lots of fun and can take several days. There's also between 1 and 3 long answer form fields. Basically, you type an entire page's worth of text into it. I don't know exactly why, because there's lots of other places on the form where they actually ask you to attach a PDF that can also be a page long or sometimes several pages long. Okay, so just to give you some idea of what it looks like, so the Insight Grants call for this year is now out. This is a screenshot of the first form in the application form. You can see here on the left, those are all the different categories of forms that you may need to fill in. Some of them are mandatory, some of them are optional, depending on exactly what you're proposing. This little white mark beside those categories, that indicates that a PDF attachment is required for those ones, and possibly also some of these forms. So you see here a bunch of short answer forms where you actually type in a short answer, or maybe here or here select things from a list. Okay. Then we have, I'm zooming in here to one of the categories that has this little symbol here. This is what it looks like when you need to attach a PDF. So you get this sort of instructions with specifications. As far as I know, almost all the specifications are usually all about the same. And then you just attach a file here. And then finally we have, like I said, some of these forms are actually long answer forms where you basically need to type a large amount of text or paste a large amount of text into this online form. And you can see here, there's a character limit. Okay, so the challenges in filling in one of these things, besides the intellectual challenge of coming up with a good research idea. Oh, my time is off. So applicants need to make sure that they adhere to all the content and structure and formatting requirements, okay? They need to also make sure that all of this content and formatting is consistent across all those different form fields, again, some of which you type in directly into the web, some of which are PDFs. And so that means if you're writing it offline, as most people do, you need to make sure that your proposal is consistent across all those different areas that you're going to be uploading individually or typing into the form individually. Because writing a proposal is, a very long process. It takes a lot of time. People usually invest months and months. You've got to make sure that you keep all that stuff consistent across different revisions that you may be making. And of course, since you may be collaborating with a team instead of doing it on your own, you need to make sure that all your co-authors are on the same page and that you're all using the same formatting and style and that sort of thing. And of course, like I said, because most people are not entering their data directly into the web form, you need to take whatever workflow you're using, whether that's typing stuff into Microsoft Word or LaTeX, as we will see, and make sure that whatever you do is going to be submittable on the online system. So those are the main challenges here. Okay. So what I'm presenting here is something called SSHRC Insight. This is a LaTeX package that I've developed specifically for Insight Grant proposals. So the goals of this, which basically match all the challenges on the previous slide. Number one, we want to automate the formatting, especially of the PDFs, so that they meet the SSHRC mandated specifications. We want to ensure that they are consistent with each other in terms of style and in terms of things like citations and cross-references. As we all know, LaTeX can only output one PDF at a time. So you can't just put your entire proposal into one document and expect it to spit out 10 different PDFs all with the same citation numbering. Or can you? We'll find out. We also want, of course, in doing this, of course, I like writing everything in LaTeX. So I want to support my own familiar LaTeX document processing workflows, which involve things like, writing in my text editor of choice, using my versioning control system of choice, that sort of thing. And of course, even though I want to support all that, I also want to make sure it's compatible with the online system. So no matter how I end up authoring the proposal, I need to make sure that it ends up spitting out all the data that I can directly import into that form without too much trouble. Okay, so what is the purpose of this talk right here? Well, if there happen to be any humanities researchers here from Canada, well, or who might want to submit to Canada, to a Canadian funding agency, well, I'm going to describe the functionality of this package, so it might be useful for you in that sense. But probably most of the people here are a bit comfortable doing at least a little bit of development work in LaTeX, so hopefully this will sort of serve as an inspiration to all of you to maybe build similar proposal templates and packages of your own for meeting, you know, whatever requirements of whatever funding agencies you normally apply to, okay? And of course we can discuss my design as well. I mean, I make no promise that what I've come up with is the best possible solution. And so if you see a better way of doing things, please let me know during the discussion period or send me an email or whatever. Okay, so this work isn't without precedent. A couple of years ago, I wrote a similar funding, or like a LaTeX package for Horizon Europe, because I was in Europe until a couple of years ago. So Horizon Europe is the European Commission's basically largest and most prestigious research funding program. It funds, you know, work in the social sciences, humanities, medicine, I think, also natural sciences. It basically does everything. It's huge. So it's got many different types of funding programs, individual ones. I wrote a package for handling research and innovation actions, or innovation actions. And so the comparison between these two packages in terms of what problems are they trying to solve? Well, for an Insight grant, you generally need to submit somewhere between 7 and 12 PDFs to the online system. But for a Horizon Europe proposal, it can vary according to the program, but at least for the ones I've done, you need only one PDF. So this enforcing consistency across PDFs, that's not really a big problem. So we have a new problem here with Insight grants. The Insight grants tend to be, you know, much shorter than the Horizon Europe ones. So maybe somewhere on the order of 50 to 100 pages, whereas research and innovation actions, you know, they can balloon to many, many hundreds of pages. So that also sort of affects where you need to concentrate. Of course, in both cases, you need to follow all the funding agencies' formatting and structural and content requirements. You need to make sure that, you know, you're maintaining consistency of the style and content and whatnot across revisions, you know, managing multiple co-authors. And of course, because there's only one PDF for the Horizon Europe ones, we don't really care about maintaining consistency across PDFs. The online forms for the Horizon Europe, they don't have as many long answer forms, and the ones that do are really not so onerous, so we don't really care about maintaining consistencies between the PDF and the online form. But one thing that you really need with the Horizon Europe proposals that you don't need with SSHRC is calculating all kinds of tables. Basically, this one PDF you do, you need to put all the data for the proposal in it, including, you know, the budget and the, you know, individual collaborators need to be numbered, and you've got to refer to those numbers later in the proposal. You need to add up individual columns of the budget and whatnot. So basically, you need to have, you either maintain a separate spreadsheet and laboriously copy all the information into your proposal, and you redo that every time your budget changes, or every time you add a new partner and need to do the renumbering, or you do it programmatically in LaTeX and let it do all the calculations for you, okay? So that's why basically why I wrote this Horizon Europe template, is to eliminate all that problem. But we don't have this problem with Insight grants, fortunately. Okay. I'm not the first person to have tried to come up with some sort of LaTeX or automatable solution for Insight grants. About 10 years ago, a fellow named Christopher Barrington-Lay posted on his blog a Python script that he uses for SSHRC Insight grants. But he doesn't use LaTeX directly, he uses LIX. But LIX can be exported to LaTeX, which is what he does. So his Python script basically, he writes the entire proposal in a single LIX document. Then this Python script takes that LIX document, converts it to LaTeX. It counts all of the characters in the long answer form fields, and then, you know, makes sure that they're don't exceed that character count. It exports them to a text file that he can then copy and paste into the online form. The rest of the LaTeX proposal, he compiles into this one unified PDF, and then he uses some sort of a PDF processing program. I don't remember which one, maybe it's just Python itself, that splits that PDF file up into separate files that he can then upload into the correct sections of the form. So that script is in principle adaptable, maybe even to LaTeX, I'm not sure. It's not really designed for LaTeX, it's designed for LaTeX. But he doesn't really provide any sort of document template, so there's no provision for managing the content or structure or formatting. You just got to figure that part out on your own. The documentation is pretty sparse. It's basically 10 commented lines at the beginning of the Python script. It assumes familiarity with Python, which might not be true for every social sciences and humanities researcher. I mean, we can say the same thing about LaTeX, but at least with LaTeX, there are some nice user-friendly interfaces, right? Maybe not so much for Python. That script also, I mean, it's obviously just sort of a kludge that he uses for his own personal use. He didn't really polish it up for publication. So all the file name paths and system calls and the page ranges and everything, those are all hard-coded, okay? And I don't think he's actually maintained this. I think that was just this one blog post 10 years ago and it's never been updated. Okay, so what am I doing? Okay, well, let's go through some of the technical challenges and the solutions one at a time. So again, another quote here. So team members had different style preferences, but coherence demanded a consistent style. Should we or should we not use serial commas? How about digital object identifiers, DOIs? The principal investigator declared me the technical wizard because I could put asterisks in the margin next to SSHRC-funded entries on our respective CVs. That's one of the requirements. Now, keep in mind that she's actually writing about presumably a word processor-based workflow, right? Not mine. So the good news is that SSHRC's document level formatting requirements are pretty simple. We saw them on one of those screenshots. It's just basically margins, paper size, and font. That's it. So that's no problem. So SSHRC Insight, just in a few lines of code, and I'm not even going to show you what it is. You guys all know the geometry package and whatnot, how to set fonts and things like font spec. It automatically applies all that mandatory styling, okay? And my package basically lets authors use whatever other styling rules they want because SSHRC gives you wide latitude to format your proposal how you want, subject to those mandatory minimum styling requirements. And of course, if you're writing your proposal in LaTeX, this is based mostly on semantic markup, right? So if you just stick to the regular, section, subsection, footnote, whatever macros, everything's going to look the same. It's a lot easier to deviate from that when you're using a word processor, right? You've got to sort of force yourself to use that style drop-down menu, and of course, we've all worked, with co-authors maybe who weren't aware of that or forgot or whatever. Okay, so it's much easier to enforce consistency that way. Also with bibliography, of course, we have style files for BibTeX or BibLaTeX that we just enter all the information about a publication and it takes care of the formatting. So we don't need to decide collectively on whether or not to use DOIs, right? We just pick a bibliography style and the program takes care of it. So this has nothing to do with SSHRC Insight, it's just a consequence of using the standard LaTeX tools. So SSHRC doesn't care what referencing style you use for the references, for the bibliography, that's fine. It just imposes 2 additional requirements. Number 1, any work that was funded by SSHRC needs to have an asterisk in the margin. That's what we saw in that quote. And student authors in any reference need to be annotated with a plus sign, okay? Now, applying this formatting has befuddled a lot of grant writers. Again, we saw that in the quote, but it befuddled even me using LaTeX. I didn't know how to put a star in the margin next to a bibliography entry. Okay, but I look it up once, I put it in a package and put it for make it available for everybody else to download and use. Okay, then nobody else needs to know, right? So I provide these ready-made solutions, provided the authors are using BibLaTeX. I do know how to do it in BibTeX now, but BibTeX is a lot harder to customize. You need to apply that to every individual style you use, whereas BibLaTeX sort of divorces those kind of annotations from whatever style you might want to apply. So for annotating SHRC-funded works, we just add a keyword to the bibliography entry. And then SHRC Insight package takes care of the rest. All we have to do then, all it does is it changes this begin entry bib macro for bib LaTeX, adds a box of 0 width containing an asterisk. So if you're a developer, simple solution. If you're a user, ooh, it's magic. So here's an example. So we just have, a standard, BibTeX entry here, and the only weird thing about it is that it has this keyword here, and when we process it through, Beaver and BibLaTeX, it ends up putting this nice star in the margin, exactly like the specifications. Similarly, annotating student authors, I didn't really have to do anything myself. This is something that BibLaTeX handles natively. And it's there for anyone who bothers to read the 700-page manual. There's something in BibLaTeX called a data annotation. So what you can do is add this field to the BibTeX entry, or a field in this format, author plus AN, and then you just basically write the index of the author in the author list, followed by equals, and then you have some sort of special keyword, and then you can, change your class so that it applies some special formatting for any entries with that keyword. So that's exactly what I did. Actually, I don't think I've shown the code here. Yeah, okay. But this is basically how it works. So you have some other BibTeX entry with a list of 3 authors. So you just add this extra field here saying author number 1 and author number 3 are both students. And then when you compile that document, oh, there you go, there's the plus sign, exactly per the spec. Okay, what other technical challenges do we have? Okay, let's go back to Michelle McGinn. What else does she complain about, she and her co-authors? Okay, any change in one section had ripple effects across other sections, and we had to check carefully to avoid any inconsistencies. When we added or removed research components or shifted items from one budget year to another, we had to ensure the proposal, the budget, the description, the student training, the knowledge mobilization plan, and all other sections were aligned. Okay? And keep in mind that you're doing this on a proposal that is split across multiple documents. Barrington Lay wrote, for the 2015 SSHRC Insight Grant, there are 2 of the big text entry boxes and 7 separate PDF sections to upload. One of those is a list of references. I would like to use a citation manager to make citations across the various PDF sections and to have the reference list coordinated across them. I would like to prepare everything in one file when I'm writing or sharing drafts for comments. Okay, so this brings us to solving basically the major problem here. How do we get multiple PDF files out of one document? Because if you recall, the proposal needs to be submitted as a combination of separate form fields and PDF attachments. But when you're writing a proposal, that's really annoying to work on multiple documents and keep everything consistent. Everyone wants to work on the proposal in one document, right? So what I found was a package called subfiles. There's a package called subfiles that allows you to, if you use it right, you can easily switch your compilation modes between compiling individual documents or compiling one document that includes all of them. And the nice thing about that, it's not just including existing PDFs, it's actually handling things like making sure the citation numbering is consistent, as we're going to see. So how you have to apply this with SSHRC Insight is when you write your proposal, every proposal needs to have a main file, and we could call it, say, proposal.tex. That file needs to have document class SSHRC Insight, and then it needs to include every subfile, that is every PDF or whatever that you want to upload separately or copy into the form using the subfile command. And if you compile that main file, that gives you your complete proposal, everything that you're about to submit. Each subfile is one of those separate documents. It needs to have the subfiles document class, and you need to give it this optional argument, which is the file name without the extension of your main file. Now, these subfiles will automatically inherit the main file's preamble. So for example, you need to put only your styling information only in the main file. Your bibliography setup only in the main file. Okay? And if you compile any one of those subfiles, you get one of those individually submitted PDFs. So here's an example of what the proposal, the main proposal file looks like. We do this. I've actually added a little optional argument here because you can specify what year's specification you are aiming for, because SSHRC might change the requirements from year to year. You basically just, you can add your bibliography stuff here, give a title to your proposal, and then you just have a whole bunch of these subfiles, each corresponding to what you saw on that screenshot before. And then of course the individual subfiles, document class subfiles, and then you just write whatever you want for that one PDF. And notice here, even though this subfile is for the list of references, we don't need to include any of this bib LaTeX stuff, because that was all in the main file. It gets automatically inherited. Okay, so how do we ensure that the citation numbering is stable no matter whether a subfile is compiled individually or a part of the main file? Okay, you can imagine that if your proposal has 100 citations, but maybe one given subfile of it cites only 5 of them, you don't want those 5 to be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the subfile. You want it to use the numbering of everything, because you have only one file in the entire proposal that is supposed to list all of your references. So the solution is basically to force all the subfiles to use the BBL file of the main file. And SSHRC Insight handles that entirely transparently by basically conditionally loading the bib LaTeX read BBL package. It's just a package that basically forces one document to use a different document's BBL file. The only weird thing going on here that you need to watch out for is that you need to compile the main file before you compile the subfiles. Otherwise, they won't have bibliographies. Oh, I'm running out of time, aren't I? Okay, better go quick. Okay, so another problem is you might have broken hyperlinks in your document if you're just compiling one subfile, because it might, you might link to some section or some bibliography entry that's in another file. So the package just takes care of automatically disabling hyperlinks if you happen to use hyperref when you're compiling a subfile. For those foreign fields that you need to type in on your own rather than as PDFs, the class provides a count characters macro where you can just type in plain text as the argument whatever it is that you want to type into the form field. And of course the advantage though is that when you compile the main document you actually get to see that. It's not hidden in the web form only. Okay, so here's an example of that count characters, and that you basically just type in the text that you want to type into the form. It counts the number of characters and warns you also if you're over the limit. When it comes time to submit, you can just copy and paste that into the form. Okay, I think I'll need to skip a little bit because these slides basically just talk about the benefits of working with LaTeX and version control in general, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. McGinn was documenting an experience where she had 4 collaborators and was working on this proposal for 3 months, presumably in a word processor, and had to manage 206 different drafts from different collaborators and manually merge them. But of course, we don't need to worry about that when we're using something like Git and LaTeX or Overleaf or whatnot. It handles all that for us. Okay, so just to conclude, is what I've done a waste of time, or is this actually going to be useful? Because does anybody in the humanities or social sciences actually use LaTeX? But I think there is good evidence, and we've all seen it today, at least with Corey's talk, that yes, there are humanities researchers that use LaTeX. I don't know if anybody knows, but a past president of TUG, Christina Thiel, was a linguist and used TeX extensively. She actually even authored a Tech in the Humanities column for Tugboat for a while. I think it's no longer written though. And so Thiel argues that we tech developers, or people who develop tech packages, we should concentrate on reducing the learning curve for non-tech users and make it user-friendly for them. And I think we're at a point right now where we can greatly succeed. It's just a question of, you know, let's write these packages. Let's get people interested in it. I've had some great experiences doing it. I've submitted a few proposals using these packages, one of which was actually accepted. So it actually works. And I actually have collaborators in the humanities and social sciences. I'm a computer scientist myself, and they did not balk at all at using, you know, technologies like overleaf and whatnot in order to help write the proposal. So I think it was a big success. So thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, time for questions. I can see everyone's ready.
Does it come with a guarantee of success in the competition?
No, but I mean, if you do get something funded, then I'll take a commission.
The question is a little bit more about this subfiles package. Can it compile the whole document and change the options or the options for the document class?
Change the options for the document class.
I'll give a concrete example. Can you, for example, just my idea is to compile the same document with sometimes different options. For example, draft and non-draft, and doing it automatically without me keying in the draft option.
You might be able to do that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
You'd have to read the documentation for that one. Okay.
Yeah, both, okay. Are you planning on creating one of these packages for NSERC proposals? Please?
I'll probably write an NSERC proposal at some point in the near future. So probably yes. But let me work on my SHRC proposal first now that I have it. Yeah.
Yeah, Frankie. Just a quick question. Getting everything in one file while working, I fully agree with you. That's very helpful. But why didn't you consider just sort of taking an offside step and split the PDF in the end and make it that way?
Well, there's a few hiccups if you do it that way. So, for example, that breaks the hyperlinks. If you
Well,
do it that
depends
way.
on how you do it, I guess. But yeah, probably.
Well, I don't think there's no PDF splitter I know of that does that intelligently. That will preserve maybe, well, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was just interested why not. So that's a good argument if you have
Well,
hyperlinks
another reason why
inside.
not is you don't necessarily know in advance where to split the PDFs. Because they might have varying number of pages.
System could
so
tell
remember
you
this
that.
Python script that I talked about, he hard-coded them because he couldn't figure them out programmatically. But with subfiles, you know, you just need to know the name of the file. In fact, you can put them all in a make file if you know, or whatever, some sort of automated build system, if you don't want to build them all separately.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
You mentioned that you now can basically write all of the content in your basically one document or split across a few files.
Yeah.
Could you then actually go one step further and just programmatically submit that through whatever API the web form uses?
Programmatically submit this. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because in the, like I said, the whole research funding and application process is itself the object is scientific study. And one of these studies makes the case that the application process is complicated on purpose. It's basically put there as a barrier so that they don't get so many applications. It's basically a filter. So they don't want it to be made easier. So even if I were able to do that, I think the funding agency would see, okay, I've opened the floodgates, we're going to change things so that it doesn't work anymore. Yeah.
Thanks.
Which way? Probably this way. Since you mentioned this was for the SSHRC proposals, which are for humanities, I believe, and from the last presentations, we heard that humanities aren't necessarily like LaTeX isn't as popular in those areas. Have you heard from users like common issues that they've had or things that would make it easier for them to like onboard onto LaTeX?
Yeah, if you read the paper that I cite on this Heria class, I did sort of my own sort of post-mortem case study on the proposal that I wrote with it with about 20 other co-applicants, some of which were in this social sciences and humanities. And I gathered comments from them and feedback. So that's all summarized in there. Yeah, there we go. So it's this one right here. This appeared in Tugboat, right? Yeah, a couple of years ago. And I will submit a Tugboat article on this talk, hopefully, you know, within a week or two. Yeah.
Oh, which way is it? Is this way? Yeah, okay. Hi, yeah, Arash here. I think that's my name anyway. So one thing I was curious about from like an accessibility perspective is because I've been applying for a lot of these grants, and I'm not in humanities, but yeah, for the STEM grants, like I was doing some for this research proposal that was accepted. It wanted a few of them, and so my question is, when the thing I struggle with the most, I think, is like they want certain things formatted a certain way and structured a certain way, and this has to be bold and that has to be aligned, and you need to check for this. Do you think from that like accessibility perspective, because obviously I can't do it easily, like I can do it in Word, but no one wants to do that. And also I can't easily see, I can't easily see at all, period. But also in this case I can't see the rendered form. So working in like using your package, do you think that would kind of lower that barrier a little bit from an accessibility perspective?
Well, I imagine it would, because you're going to be using here only semantic markup, and you're going to be entering all the information using a text-based interface. So you don't really need to see what's on the screen. You just need to know the content of it and how many pages it renders to make sure you're under the page limit. SSHRC Insight Grants, like I said, they don't impose onerous formatting requirements, at least not to the extent that, for example, Horizon Europe ones do. So you're already sort of in the clear most of the way anyway.
Sorry, just a follow-up. So for academics, do you see this as specifically just for grants or other academic things as well? Because like you just mentioned that there aren't that many formatting constraints with grants, but where I see them more in academia is writing things like essays or applying for certain things and certain opportunities in academia. You got to write essays. Do you think it's something that you could use there, this package?
No, this is really built to solve one particular problem. And you couldn't even use this, for example, for a different funding program from the same agency, because the requirements are going to be, too different.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Let's thank our speaker.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if anyone has